Welcome everyone to the episode 2 of the RPGwhat podcast. I'm Zimmy Games. Right here is my co-host, Red Wolf Renegade. How you doing, bud?
Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome. I'm excited. I'm so excited. I could pee and poop out of every orifice that I have.
Last episode we were talking about the most inspirational RPGs in our lives, the RPGs that made us into who we are, as Red likes to say it. And one thing that you said, Red, was, we need to have like our own dedicated Mass Effect show. And I said, oh yeah, we're going to do it. I said it right then, right after you said what you said. Yeah. I said what I said. And now here we are, dedicated Mass Effect show. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the weekly poll. So every single week on Monday, we put a poll on, it goes up on my Twitter, which is @ZimmyGames. And it's just a fun question. And this week, we actually decided to make the poll what our main topic is going to be. So the poll question was, will Commander Shepard appear in Mass Effect 4? And if so, will Shepard be playable? The answers were yes and playable, yes, but not playable, no, and I want to play as Ryder. Right? Because everyone wants to play as Ryder. No? Okay, yeah. Well, 37.1% said yes and playable. So that was number one. So everyone says yes, he's going to be in the game and he's going to be playable. 34.3% said yes, but not playable. 22.9% said no. And 5.7% said, they wanted to play as Ryder. So more people said that they wanted to play as Ryder than thought the sole survivor would win in a free-for-all against Geralt of Rivia, Shepard, and the Skyrim main protagonist. So yeah, that's interesting.
Wild. Can you believe it? Are you surprised? Are you surprised in any way, shape, or form?
I am actually kind of surprised that, because like there's so much hate for Andromeda, right? So I am actually kind of surprised. I think that there's more hate for Andromeda than there is for Fallout 4. So I kind of thought that, I don't know, like less people would vote for Ryder than voted for the Fallout 4 protagonist, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't know, because I feel like the hate for Fallout 4, that character was more based around the fact that they were voiced, therefore giving them a set identity, kind of, So whenever you compare those two characters, I don't know. Everyone prepare. On this show, I'm going to use the word agency all the time because that's what RPGs should have, agency. But in comparison, Fallout 4 did not allow you to be a quote unquote bad guy a whole lot. You can kind of be a dickwad, but you couldn't be straight up evil. You couldn't, you were still the survivor in the same way that you were still Shepard in Mass Effect. However, it was such a deviation from what we knew from that game. It kind of just threw itself in there. It didn't really work for me very well, but with Mass Effect, it's still Shepard. You're not playing as the same character throughout those games. I don't know if that's a good explanation or a good comparison, but I'm trying to say what I mean and mean what I say. Okay.
Hey, you know what? Let's just jump into the main topic, right? So will Shepard, Commander Shepard, our love, whether it be female, whether it be male, whether it be soldier Shepard, biotic Shepard, whatever, right? Will our Shepard, my Shepard, and your Shepard be in Mass Effect 4?
Yes. You want to know why?
Yeah. Okay.
Because they have to. Here's the number one thing. BioWare has already told us that it will be Shepard. You know how? They didn't say new Mass Effect game coming. I mean, they said that, but that's not all they said. They didn't say, get ready for the next amazing story in Mass Effect. They didn't say that. Maybe they said it roundabout, but you know what they did say? 100%. They keep saying this. They said Mass Effect will continue. And they've never said that before. And how is the story going to continue unless you are that character? And I know it's very vague. I'm not naive. I know But when they know they're fans, right? They know that people are. The thing is, BioWare does the Bethesda thing, right? They go, people are going to break this shit apart. So much so that they gave us that video of the whatever the hell it was of the Cerberus built mass relay or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
was. They knew, then they had this like scrambled audio, knowing that fans were going to break it apart, and they did. They completely pulled it piece by piece, and people deciphered it, and they're like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" And in that thing, in the audio log, we're hearing Liara talk about talking to a Geth, saying, humanity, they should have known by now. The defiance of humans, they should have known by now. Does that mean does that mean Shepard is alive? And they're like, they should have known. Or does it mean that Cerberus is being defiant and now Cerberus is making a mass relay trying to jump to Andromeda system or something? I don't know. There's so many questions. There's so many questions. But
Yeah, I
anyway,
don't know.
back to your
Well,
question. Mass Effect.
yeah.
We'll continue.
So I think we both agree on that, right? Commander Shepard is going to be in Mass Effect 4, right? And a lot of people, they're going to say, well, what happened in Mass Effect 3? Like the ending of Mass Effect 3 was, well, Shepard has a bad time in like 3 of those endings, right? So, but if I'm not mistaken, and tell me if I am, but Red, the canon ending, like, hasn't BioWare came out to say that the canon ending is the one in which Shepard is breathing at the end? Or am I wrong in
Yes,
saying that?
destroy ending is the one where Shepard is in fact breathing at the end.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
see the camera pan over all the destruction and everything, and then there's this big crumpled pile of ashes laying there, and then
Mm-hmm.
the camera sort of like zooms in, and you see like, oh, that's a person laying there because everything's gray and ashy, and you see like the N7, and you see like the and then cuts to black, and you're like,
Yeah, and
what
then
the
it cuts
fuck?
to black. Yeah,
And that's it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so like they kind of already set up the set pieces, right? That's the canon ending. They've said it, and they said it like years, I think, before we heard anything about this specific Mass Effect game. The Mass Effect will return kind of game. Like I believe that was kind of set as the canon ending. Not to mean that none of the other decisions that you make in the Mass Effect games don't matter, but I think that one in particular is kind of going to be the one decision that just doesn't matter as far as Shepard is concerned, right? Because they got to keep him going. But one thing I will say is, by going and looking at like just the very first reveal trailer, right? I think gives a lot of clues. One of those clues being that it opens up and it shows 2 galaxies, right? Shows the Milky Way is like really, really big, and then it shows kind of Andromeda out in the distance. Everything that they showed was intentional, right? If they showed Andromeda, it's going to play a role, or at least a somewhat significant role in the game. I mean, I like to imagine that the people from Andromeda, something like shit hits the fan, right? And they got to come back, kind of thing. I'm not sure if that would line up with like the timelines correctly, because of course it took them 600 years to get to Andromeda. It's going to take them 600 years to get back, right? That's 1,200 years. That's a lot. That's even a lot for Liara to Sony to be able to live through all that. I mean, Sorry can live beyond 1,000 years, but I mean, I think she was already like 400, 500 years old in the events of Mass Effect. So, she would be pushing 2,000 years at that point. So I don't know if Andromeda, if like the actual crew of Andromeda is going to come back. Maybe they go through like a I don't know, like a black hole or some place to try to get back to the Milky Way. But one thing is true, and let me just say what this one thing is, right? As soon as I can get to the images, this thing is Liara Tassoni finds some N7 armor on that snowy planet, right? On that very snowy planet. She finds it, right? Now, Shepard's not the only one that wears N7 armor, right? Not the only one.
Right.
But I mean, he's the one that everyone knows.
They are
right?
representative.
And it's Liara Tassoni that's picking up that piece of equipment, right? And who is the one person that wore N7 armor that she has a very strong emotional connection with and a long time relationship with? Shepard, right?
And it's Shepard. Yes. And not only that, but Liara is like is Liara Bushido's in the chat. Shout out to Bushido. Is Liara Tassoni not the number one romanced female character in the
I
whole
think
Mass
so.
Effect?
At
Right?
least for my
Aren't
game,
they trying
she
to
is.
reach
You
for the
know.
masses? Exactly. That's my point. And it
Yeah.
wasn't for me, not because I didn't like her, but I don't know. It's a whole. We can get into that later. But
You just don't like blue. I get it. You know.
I just don't like blue. I just don't. That's my look at
Yeah.
the shirt I'm wearing. I'm red. I'm the red wolf, not the blue wolf. Oh, but yeah. So that to me was the first thing people said. But they're not the only one. Who the hell? Who does that? Who does the N7? Look at the veins coming out of my neck because I'm talking about monster. But seriously, who are they trying to point to in that instance? We can get into theories whenever you're ready. But this is sort of the fun part about the speculation about what is actually happening, because Mark why is Mark Dara coming to my head? Is that the oh no wait, I don't know. Some guy said he tweeted out from BioWare and he said everything that because you said this just a minute ago, he literally tweeted out and said everything that we are showing is intentional. And we know this. Again, pulling that Bethesda string, saying, "Come on! We know that you're looking. We know that you're going to break this down and tear this shit apart." And people did. So I have so much to say about the theory, but I don't want to go on a tangent. So you can.
We'll get into it. We'll get into it. Look, we're only 11 minutes into the show. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching. Last week we didn't have a chat. It was a pre-recorded show. YouTube was being bullies. They wouldn't let us go live. It was a tragedy. Yeah. But Mr. Bushido, welcome. Goat Reviews. Thank you so much. And that is absolutely a great question to ask. Should Dead Space and Mass Effect be in the same universe, similar to Control, Quantum Break, Alan Wake, all of that different stuff? I think that's really cool. That's a very, very cool idea. I don't know though. Like the aliens, like the weird aliens. Like, I mean, I don't think we've ever seen that like in Mass Effect to that extent. I mean, that would be a cool idea to bring forward. Yeah, no, for sure. Thank you so much for popping up.
Yeah.
Do you want to say something?
Well, I was going to say, like, there are horror themes all over the place like, in Mass Effect, but not
when the Geth like turned the humans into like the thralls, right?
Husks. Yeah.
Husks.
Yeah.
That's what they're called. Yeah, husks.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Rachni Queen and all that shit. Yeah, there's plenty of that, but nothing like horrific and nothing like Dead Space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just a little bit more of added evidence to just state like what is Liara's purpose here. Obviously she's looking for someone that used to wear N7 armor, right? Then she looks at her buddies over there, look at her buddies, just hanging out, having a smoke break. Obviously one of them's a Solarian, one of them's a Krogan. That's Solarian. I'll just tell you right now, we don't know who that is. They lived for like 60 years. Like that's a new
the one on the left,
sure.
Right?
Yeah, the one on the left. Yeah, that's definitely a Solarian.
Right.
The center on the right. The center kind of looks like a human because Turians are tall. Like they're like really like, they're definitely taller than
they're taller than Solarians.
Yeah, for sure. So that's definitely probably a human, I would imagine. But here's the funny part, and this one gives me kind of chills. Right? Look at that. Look at how Liara is smiling. Now,
I know
she's smiling because she just found something. And what she just find? She just found N7 armor. And who does she have a connection with? It's Shepard. Shepard's in the game. Anyway.
Yep. Confirmed. I literally have tears in my eyes. I'm not kidding. You'll see it when the camera gets brought back up. But look at my eyes. I'm literally God.
Real quick. I know that you're a big Mass Effect fan, right? And I wanted to do a surprise for you. And before the show started, Red was asking me about whether or not I got like a really nice intro for the show, and I was like, no, I don't. We still have this like generic thing, and he was like, well, man, I can make you one. And I was like, nah, dude, it's no worries. It's just the budget this week went to something else, and let me just show you what that budget went to. Okay, are you ready?
Okay, all right. Should I? No way, dude! Oh my god.
That's what the budget went to.
That's fantastic. Oh my god, I love that. God, I wish more people were here live seeing this. That is so cool, dude. I love that so much. Holy shit, that is so cool. That is so cool. Look at that. And I can't even. That is so fucking awesome.
You know
That is
who
so
that is on
fucking
the
awesome.
left? That's you.
Oh, me, I'm
Obviously,
over
right?
here on the left. I got you. Well, that's me with my hat off, and then this is me over here with my hat on. So there you go. Perfect.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. Damn, man.
We
I
should
love
have
that.
said that had to be the whole budget. Yeah, you know, we're running on tight strings over here. You know, we don't have a ton, but
that is
what
fantastic.
we have, we spend wisely.
That is, I love that. I love that. That's totally worth it. It's totally worth it. Yeah, fantastic.
It really is. Yeah.
Who did this?
Yeah.
Was this your dude?
Yeah, I just found some guy on Fiverr. Yeah, it was a different guy.
That's
It wasn't
awesome.
the guy that made like the channel art and stuff like that. But yeah,
that is fantastic. See, since I'm always turned away, you can see how like my left eye. This is my left eye. Looks smaller, and I love how he just did that. He's like, whatever. And
yeah, he made us both look like we had lazy eyes.
Well, I do have a lazy eye, 100%, and it's something sexual about that. I love. I don't know what that means, but that is so cool. And my nose is huge, but I can tell that it's me. I love that. It's fantastic, perfect. I'm so happy about it. So does this stay? Is this staying here forever?
This is a staple. This is a staple.
Oh,
I guess we talk about Mass Effect.
Oh,
I'll just turn it on like every time we talk about Mass Effect. You know,
I love this. I love this.
All right,
so
back to the topic at hand, right? So, I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say Commander Shepard will be in Mass Effect 4, right? Like all the evidence pushes straight towards it, right? But then the question is, will he be playable? Because it is completely possible for him to be in the game, but not actually be playable. He could potentially, I hope he's playable, right? But he could also not be playable and be kind of like the replacement to like Anders, right? He could be like,
yeah. What
do you think?
I'm
playable?
I'm just going to be open about this. Playable, but let's just I'll play devil's advocate because I'm not going to get pissy like I usually do and be like, no, I don't want it if it's not playable. I'll just be open. If I say playable, and that's because I want it. It makes sense to me, but let's just deviate from that because that's all I can talk about. Let's say that he or she is not. Let's say Shepard is. Now, this does tie into the theory, so I don't know how to approach this without just going into my theory that Shepard. Let's say that Shepard isn't in cryo sleep. My theory is that the Geth crater that we see, the Geth-shaped crater that we see in that poster art.
Yeah, give me a second.
That you'll probably bring up.
Bam.
There we go.
Yeah.
And look at you go.
We're blocked off now, but
no, it's fine. You just sneak over there. There we go. Yeah. So this is clearly Geth, and it's yet again Bethesda. Jesus Christ, BioWare doing the Bethesda thing where they're going to read it. We know what the hell we're looking at, you son of a bitch. Who the hell? Whoopsie! I made a Geth-shaped crater. And then here we go. Here is Liara, the Krogan, the Solarian, and whoever the hell else looking for them. And it's on the snow planet. It's on the same planet and everything. I think that my theory is that they saved a Shepard for a later date, like saved him, put him in cryo, like healed him, took him away. Right, like leftovers. Put him in cryo and then put him into this pod that shipped off and then crashed eventually or whatever. Now, that's really messy. That's a really messy, like there's so many plot holes from what I just said. That's just kind of like the base idea that I think could just make sense because essentially Shepard has only really, this would just be the second time that Shepard would have been brought back to life. But in this case, it's like he's been done 1,000 times. Technically, this is the second time. Yeah. And that's the thing, and that could just be like a joke. Go ahead.
It's actually kind of funny, right? Because in Mass Effect 1, there's that brief moment where you're like there's like a little tear that comes down. It's like Shepard's dead, and then he runs over the rubble and he comes out looking all heroic, and everyone's like, "Yay, Shepard's alive!" Right? But like they make you think there for a second that he is dead. Mr. Bushido, I want to play as a custom Volus. Could you imagine? That's
customizing your teeth. You can have like gold teeth. Yeah. It just reminds me of Baraka from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, and then and then they didn't save any time in Mass Effect 2. They immediately bam, eliminate him very early on in that game. And then of course, there's Mass Effect 3's ending. So I mean, like, if Shepard has a long history of almost dying a lot, or dying and then coming back a lot,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I'll say this, right? Like, I think that Commander Shepard is going to be playable. And the reason I think that he's going to be playable is because they came out with the Mass Effect Legendary Collection, and one benefit of doing that, right, is that anyone on the current gen consoles can go and play those games and have those save files on their console, so that whenever the next Mass Effect comes out, you don't get to just play as a new Shepard that you create. You get to play as the Shepard that you created back in Mass Effect 1, carried over to 2, carried over to 3, and then of course carried over to like the brand new game, right? And I just think that that's too perfect of an opportunity for BioWare to do that cool, like, hey, the decisions that you make in the past reflect, now even. I think that that's just like a missed opportunity. And I think that, I mean, of course, it's BioWare, it's EA, they like making money. Of course, that's a big reason why they came out with the Legendary Collection. But I also like to think that it's because of the save file thing. It's to get everyone's save files ready for whenever we get to play as Shepard again.
And you're talking about the Legendary Edition, right? So
Yeah,
they had like
yeah.
a revamp, right? And dude, I'm so glad that you brought this up, because I thought about this so much. How they would have to work in the code from this new version being the Legendary Edition, this new version, and how to work it into a next gen Mass Effect, because and not just the game code, but the actual character seed code, that you could put in. I know you can do it in Mass Effect. I think you can just do it in all of them, actually. And to work that in, that would make more sense for them to say, we need to make something more accessible this time around. That way we can just pull it, and just slap it on the new. I don't know what engine. I can't remember what is it. Unreal 5. I can't remember. I don't even know if they've said
Unreal
what it's
5
on.
is well, I don't know if they have specifically said what engine they are using. Historically, they've always used, well, minusing out Andromeda, that used Frostbite engine, right? For Mass Effect
Oh
1, 2, and
right, fuck.
3, I believe
Yeah,
they used Unreal, the Unreal
yeah.
Engine. And then so Unreal 5 kind of makes the most sense for them, right? Because they kind of announced that the game, like they released like the teaser trailer and stuff like that. We know that it's, in production. Whenever they announced that stuff, it was probably still in pre-production, like whenever they came out with the trailer and stuff.
Right.
So I would imagine that this game is definitely going to be developed using Unreal Engine 5 for sure, I would say.
Yeah, I can't imagine them not taking advantage of that right off the bat, especially
Hmm.
because Unreal Engine 5 is the hot topic right now. It is. People are jumping all over. Look what they're doing with Fortnite. I mean, it's people are jumping all over it. They've been using the Unreal Engine for stuff like Star Wars and like like the Mandalorian, and whatnot. I don't.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that I'm hoping that whatever they do, that is a thing. As far as bringing in your Shepard,
Hmm.
that looks like your Shepard, because I'm sure that I'm trying to figure out how to like parse, like, okay, so if you were to bring in your Shepard from Legendary Edition, from 3, I guess it would be,
Yeah.
into the new Mass Effect, new character creation system,
Yeah.
everything, it would look similar to what
So hot.
I feel like it wouldn't be, yeah, it
So
wouldn't
hot.
be one to one.
I mean,
So yeah, you know what I mean?
it
Like,
wouldn't be. You're right, but see, that's kind of like an issue that they faced in Mass Effect 1 going to 2, right? Because
two,
every Mass
exactly.
Effect
Yeah.
game had like a big graphics jump, and so like
Yeah.
if you transferred your character from Mass Effect 1 to Mass Effect 2, like your character kind of looks a little weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, but at the same time, if I'm not mistaken, they always gave the player the option to go in and do a little cosmetic surgery to their character, right? If you wanted to
Right.
import in like your decisions and your character and so on and so forth. So I think that would be important, if they took that route, which I think that they are going to hopefully take that route, right? Because I loved my character from the Mass Effect Legendary Collection. Absolutely adored her. It was the first time I ever played as Fem Shepard, and I 110% just love the hell out of that playthrough. And so I would love to bring that character in. Of course, I think it would be important to give me the ability to make a few little edits here and there, to make sure that she looks exactly the way I want her to, right? But yeah, one thing that you did mention though earlier, and I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Whenever you were talking about kind of like your conspiracy, well, not your conspiracy theory, your theory on how they're going to potentially bring Shepard into the game, like Cryo, right? I think Cryo is pretty much like the only way of doing it, right? Unless you do like the whole Cerberus, like, reanimation from the dead kind of thing. But at that point, I mean, Shepard would be like beef jerky, after a very long time,
Right.
just like laying there on a planet or something. So I
Yeah.
think cryosleep is probably like the best way of explaining that away, because I mean we know that the technology existed, right? Of course, the Andromeda Initiative, they had cryosleep, so that really makes the most sense, because I don't think this new Mass Effect game is going to take place like directly after 3. I think it's going to take place at least a couple of 100 years after Mass Effect 3, if not a long time after Mass Effect 3. What do you think?
Well. So I don't know if you followed the breakdowns shortly after all of that footage came out.
Yeah.
It's almost been confirmed that this actually takes place around 40 years or so after Mass Effect 3. There now, I don't know if Bushido or Umbra in chat could help me out here, or DeMarco. Shout out to DeMarco, Umbra, and Bushido in the chat. They're all big ass Mass Effect fans. Well, I know Bushido is. I know Bushido has a big old juicy ass. But sorry, this is not the Renegade Realm podcast. I apologize. But
It's
anyway,
about to be.
Somebody help me out. It's about to be. Sorry. But no, I remember that a lot of fans broke down just everything, right? And we came out with there was a chart, or not a chart, sorry, a log of some sort, and there was a date, and the date lined up with other ways that the date was shown throughout the trilogy. It was shown very similarly, almost identical to how it was shown in this this video log somewhere. And I don't know how to pull it. I don't know how to look it up. Or maybe I could, but it's like 40 plus some years after, or something like that. It's not that long after Mass Effect 3, which I think that could change things.
Here's the question though, right? So, at the beginning of that trailer, right? At the very beginning, like of the very first trailer that ever came out, right? About this new Mass Effect game, they show off the Milky Way, and they also show off Andromeda, right? If it's only 40 years since the end of the Reaper threat, how does Andromeda really come into play? You know what I mean? Other than maybe going and finding some secret logs talking about the Andromeda Initiative, right? But those guys, like the whole Andromeda, guys, I mean they're passed out, like they're popsicles right now. If it's 40 years, right, after the Reaper threat, they are literally sitting in their cryopods, frozen popsicle humans, people, right? So how does that play in? Why show the Andromeda galaxy if there's really nothing that you can do with that kind of thing?
You brought up the black hole theory, which I never actually even thought about. Because let's say that, I don't know, like let's say that something is going on in the Andromeda galaxy. You know how like in Final Fantasy games, when people just like appear out of nowhere, you're just like walking along the beach, and like Sephiroth's like, fancy meeting you here. It's like, you're like 75 miles away just now. last time I saw you, and you don't even have a vehicle. There's no helicopter, and you're just standing here. And a lot of anime does that, but it's fine. I don't want that. I don't want the Andromeda dudes to just like show up and be like, whoa. That would be really depressing because everyone that they know is dead.
Yeah.
Or are they in that time? I don't know. It's like because it's
I mean,
700 years
actually
difference for
they
Andromeda.
may not be.
They may
I
be
mean, like
alive, right?
the Reapers,
Yeah, it's
you
so
know, they were
weird.
creeping around the galaxy, destroying a lot of planets and stuff. So I mean, like, you know, there's a good percentage chance that the people that they knew were dead. And I mean, like, yeah, the Reapers absolutely like devastated Earth, and a lot of humans died. But I mean, like, I don't think like all of civilization's gone, right? I mean, you know, the Reapers weren't able to kill everyone off, kind of thing, right? Like, there's still civilization still exists
Right. I don't.
to some extent.
Yeah, and DeMarco in the chat says, I'd imagine Andromeda is going to be a mention only, probably distance itself from that. I mean, in the same way that the Shepard was a mention only, essentially in Andromeda,
Hmm.
I can definitely just see that, and then just wanting to continue Mass Effect, like they've said, and just saying, I heard that Cerberus was working on it, or sorry, Cerberus, right? Cerberus was the whole
Yeah.
Ark project, right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then just mentioning them. I heard they're building an Ark or what, something like that, in the new Mass Effect.
Hmm.
Or, I don't know, I don't know. There's so many avenues to go. The one thing
Yeah.
that I'm sure of, I'm sure, I am comfortable theorizing is
Saying
that
that's fact,
Shepard is alive.
right?
Right, is
Yes.
because the Geth are very prevalent in this Mass Effect. Liara is very much a big part of it because we know that she is the Shadow Broker. She has all
Hmm.
kinds of hands and tentacles,
Don't
and
forget, look
oh
at that
god,
smile. Look at that
and
smile.
she's
Like
just so happy. She's like, "I got my boo
she just
back.
found
I'm about to
this,
get that."
like this plus this
Mm,
equals Shepard is alive. You know what I mean?
exactly, Yep. And if you look at the crescent moon, you see the angle is not quite a 90-degree angle. You can calculate
Oh
times
my
one
god.
Liara, 3 characters multiplied by the 90-degree angle, and you can get the release date for Mass Effect 4.
Got you.
But anyway,
One
yeah.
thing I will say that makes sense with the 40 years timeline, right? Is whenever we look at these companions, right? We see actually, you know what? That is not a Krogan. That's not a Krogan, that's a Turian. I'm pretty sure. Because the Turians have like big bulky armor, right? Like up at the top. And he's
Oh,
really
look at
tall. Like a
the
Krogan wouldn't be that tall, right?
well,
I don't know, that might be a
bro,
Krogan.
now my
That's
brain
pretty
is like
fat.
doing that thing.
Like
Yeah, my
fat like
brain is doing that thing
PH.
where I'm like looking at the top, the skinny at the bottom. That might be a fucking Turian,
Like the skinny, like far
dude.
left. Is that what we're talking about?
No, I'm talking about to the far right is being a Turian.
Far right. Yeah, that could be a Turian because
Because
Krogans are
like if
not
they have like
that
their
tall,
armor, like their
right?
weapon, so like if I stand like this, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if the camera can see. Well, the camera can't see me. It's fine. But if I stand
Yeah.
like with like my weapon at my ready, my elbows are gonna kind of be out, And it
Yeah.
looks like if he's standing there like with his weapon, he could look even bigger because Turians are top heavy, for lack of a better word. Like they are tall and top heavy. Like they're not small. They're tall.
Mm-hmm.
They're thick, but they got them
Yeah.
legs, them little baby ant legs. Um, I don't know. That's I never looked at it that way. I just immediately thought
Well,
Turian, human, Krogan because they're
yeah.
big.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so here's the thing, right? So like if they want to pay homage to like the original trilogy, right? I would say that they want to include as many iconic characters in this new Mass Effect game as they possibly can, right?
Yeah.
Include the Krogan that survives, include Garrus, include obviously Liara Sony and other characters as well, right? And um, here's the thing, I mean, everyone can't be cryogenically frozen. Like that is just
Right.
awkward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's just awkward.
Yeah.
Like, they can turn Shepard into a popsicle and kind of explain that away a little bit, to maintain like his physique and make sure that, hey, he's still capable as a fighter and so on and so forth. Right. We don't need to see him walking out with a cane, like a walker. We don't need to see that.
Right.
Turians, like, they kind of already have a little bit longer of a lifespan, so that kind of makes sense. Say, okay, 40 years. Well, Turian, I think like their average life cycle is like what, like 150 years, something like that. Like it's a little bit longer than a human. So that could potentially be Garrus. You know what I mean? And that's the benefit of doing it for like a 40-year kind of time jump versus like hundreds of years.
Right. And I'm not sorry. I'm just gonna. I don't. I want to keep up with people that showed up.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you guys for
absolutely.
showing up for this. And DeMarco, he says, didn't they say what stage Liara was in during these teasers? Could that give us some window as to how many years being maiden, matron, and matriarch? Because you have matriarch Benezia being at like the at the Jilf phase or Gilf. I don't know how it is.
Milf.
It's like Jif,
Milf.
but well, Gilf because she's a grandmother. But and she just says, "Good eyes, thank you, Rashida. I love you." But I don't know.
Is she a
I don't know,
grandmother though?
Because
Liara Tassoni doesn't have kids.
No, I just think like there's like levels, like right. So the Asari, once they reach, I'm trying to think of how to compare it to. It's like once they reach like it's like a Padawan, a Jedi, a Jedi Knight, Jedi Master.
Matriarch is 700 years old. Okay, so Liara Tassoni is 108 in Mass Effect 2. Yeah. So I mean, from if we're just talking about a 40-year time jump, like Liara Tassoni is basically going to look the same. You know what I mean? Like she's not. What's 40 years to an Asari? But I will say this. Now, obviously, art styles change and so on and so forth. And I don't know if I have a picture that really captures this very, very well. Right here's probably the best one. Those freckles are like significantly darker, I feel. And just like, I just feel like that's like an Asari thing. Like they get kind of like their skin gets a little darker and so on and so forth, like as they age. I don't know. To me, looking at her cheek here, she looks, there's some wrinkles and so on and so forth.
She got some crow's feet on her eyes too. I've never stopped and looked at this shot.
She looks significantly older than she did in any of the trilogy Mass Effects. Mass Effect 3, we'll just say Mass Effect 3. She looks older. And would an Asari age that much if the time jump was just 40 years,
Right. Dude, I feel like I'm just gonna
we're uncovering some secrets of the universe, right?
Like, yeah, I never looked at that. She's got crow's feet. She's got the wrinkles here. She's got the smile lines here. I never stopped and looked at that picture. Imagine though,
DeMarco,
this is what
DeMarco also mentioned something as well. Let me just say this real quick. He mentioned something earlier. He said it has to take place a good portion I guess of time because of like the rebuilding after the Reaper invasion. Like things, have to be repaired and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? They have to, they also have to find a new way of using technology and traveling and so on and so forth, right? Because the mass relays have been, poof,
boom,
bye. Yeah.
And that is a big part of like, how do we move forward? We're stuck. Like certain systems are just stuck, right? And that is like a huge thing to think about. The tragedy of like losing connection. It's sort of like humanity now, like losing electricity. It's like we got so used to it. Now what the hell do we do? Our trade routes are gone. Our this and that, everything is gone. That's why I don't know. I hate to like keep jumping around to this, but like the tragedy of having a Shepard that comes back to a broken world is somehow awesome to me. I love that idea of coming back and him being like, "Why am I alive again?" And I have to deal with this shit. I don't know, like because picking
it's
up
like
the pieces.
Al Pacino in Godfather 3, like I'm out, but they keep pulling me back in, kind of moment, right?
Right, exactly. They keep pulling me back in. She got a great ass, or whatever he says in the other movie. But I can't remember what that was, but no, yeah. So, thinking about now, do you remember the whoopsie that they had from their marketing person a while back, where they had somebody said Mass Effect 4, Shepard and the team are picking up the pieces since the this is official BioWare, by the way.
Mhm.
And someone, one of their marketing people reached out after they revealed that Mass Effect will continue, and somebody said something along the lines of, "Shepard and the team are picking up the pieces after the devastation of the Reaper attack. Mass Effect will continue, blah blah blah." And then they took it down immediately. They're like, "Dude, what the fuck are you doing?" They're like, "Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
someone that we hired as the marketing dude didn't know what they were talking about, so we just took that down, and that's our bad." It's like, if they didn't know what the hell they were talking about, then why the hell did they know how Mass Effect 3 ended and knowing how it would move forward and be like, whoopsie, what the fuck? I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you remember this?
I do vaguely. Yeah, I mean, but like that's it's very broad. You know what I mean? I mean, you could read that and be like, okay, well, it's going to take place right after, the game, right? But then you could also read that and say, like there could still be a significant time jump at the same time. I mean, it's going to take a long time to rebuild and to correct what the Reapers destroyed. You know what I mean? But one thing that you kind of played on a
Shepard,
little bit, and I thought you were going this route, is Shepard is gonna be like he's gonna be fucked up. Like, because in Mass Effect 3, this woman is seeing ghosts, right? Just imagine,
yeah,
like, in Mass Effect 4, if we play as Shepard, even seeing Shepard, like Shepard is gonna be a messed up person. I mean, like just psychologically, just absolutely probably destroyed. Just from the fact of what we saw in Mass Effect 3, right? He kept seeing ghosts, like basically all the time, right? I mean, he was having like a psychological like breakdown or something. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And then yeah, he you know I guess won the battle at the end of the whatever, but he also almost died again. I mean, how many times do you have to almost die or die before it starts messing with you, right?
right.
And that's going
Yeah,
to be,
and
I
that's the
think, a
thing.
really interesting thing to see from the game.
Yeah, and I think that was sort of what they played around with, like, because after Mass Effect 2 getting brought back, it fucked with his head all over. And then the trauma, I mean, the PTSD, like, it reminded me a lot of, like, Spec Ops The Line, if anybody's played that. A lot of that, the trauma started messing with your brain. I don't want to spoil that game, but the game's amazing. Go play Spec Ops The Line. Uh, but how broken of a Shepard, like, how much can one person go through? You know what I mean? Like, it's insane to me that I guess, like, the more that I think about it, the more I'm like becoming okay with maybe having Liara be like the who was I talking? Was it you that I was talking to about the becoming the Dragon Age Inquisition advisor sort of role in Liara, being old and being
No,
like,
I
I've seen
think that
shit.
was,
Who was
I
I
think, well,
talking to?
you might have been talking to me about that, but I think that was mentioned on your podcast this Tuesday.
It was
I
DeMarco.
think you
That's who I was
guys,
talking to.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
which was very similar to what I was saying with like the whole Anderson kind of role. Like if they went the route of yes, Shepard's in the game, I think it's pretty safe to say that he's in the game, right? Like, come on. Um,
Right.
the question is he playable? Is he not playable? If he's not playable, if he's an NPC, which I hope it's not, I want to play a Shepard. Shepard is like the what did we say last? We said this last podcast. Shepard is the original Soul Survivor, throwing
Right.
just
Right.
extra
Yeah.
shade at Fallout 4. But it's I want to play as him. But if we don't get to play as him, like it makes the most sense to put him in like an Anderson kind of role, right? Where
Shepard, you
he
mean?
is like high leadership. Yeah, Shepard, yeah. Which is kind of like what they did with I can't remember the character's name, but the Dragon Age Inquisition reference.
Right. Um, yeah. Yeah, and I feel like that. Okay, so bear with me. And people who have finished The Witcher 3 in its entirety and finished the Blood and Wine DLC, and that game is like Geralt literally winks at the camera. And I have said, because of the way that The Witcher 3 ends, and when I say ends, Blood and Wine, I mean, it's very definitive, and it's very like, what a satisfying, just, we're done. Go home. We're done. If The Witcher 4 came out, I've always said I wouldn't mind if Geralt was the main protagonist again. I would actually much rather prefer, having spent so much time with Geralt, to be his apprentice and to be trained by Geralt, to create your own character and have Geralt be your mentor. And then if Geralt ends up dying near the end or the middle of The Witcher 4 or whatever,
don't do the Han
fucking
Solo
beginning,
thing.
because I swear to God,
don't do the Han Solo thing.
They're gonna do the fucking Last of Us 2 shit. That's what I'm talking about. If they do that, I'm gonna be so mad. No, don't do that. Anyway, I'm just saying, if they did that, imagine creating your own character and Geralt is your mentor, and then you would have a connection. You would we're just carrying on passing the torch, so to speak, rather than just moving completely away and doing the Rider thing, which was fine. It's just that the tone was gone for me. So apply that to Mass Effect 4, where Shepard is now the mentor, and then you get to sort of pick up the pieces there. And then picking up the pieces being like,
they kind of did like the whole mentor thing in Mass Effect Andromeda, and I'm one of the very few people that actually liked Andromeda. Played it while it was a buggy mess and thoroughly still enjoyed it. But they kind of did the mentor thing. Like, if you remember Ryder and that Krogan, like the old battle scarred, seasoned, Krogan, right? A lot of the times he would just give you advice, like, hey kid, like, kind of thing. Right. So I like, every time I went to go have a conversation with him, a dialogue with him, it kind of always seemed like my character was going to him, which obviously there's multiple options that you can select, but like, it almost kind of always seemed like my character was always kind of seeking advice from him, and that Krogan very much kind of becomes a mentor in some way to Ryder, right? Which is something that they could never really do for Shepard. Shepard, we start the game, Shepard is already a war hero, right? That man has already seen battle, right? So that would be cool to like have Shepard as an NPC, kind of like an Anderson kind of mentor. I guess Anderson in some ways was kind of like a mentor to Shepard, but not really at the same time. It was more of just kind of like a, hey, he's my superior kind of thing. Like, he's higher ranked than me, I need to follow what he says.
Right. There's a bunch of great stuff in the chat. I just want to grab that for you real quick before we go ahead. So DeMarco, sorry, let me go. There's actually one that I want to get to. Let me grab the other ones real quick. DeMarco says, I actually really liked Ryder. I love the scene where he tries to rally the team and they all just walk away, which I do love that scene. And the music sort of cuts down. I do. I love that kind of stuff. And Bushido says, I'm okay with not playing a Shepard again. And I'm trying to get to where we were before. Umbra is the one that caught my eye. He said, I only wonder narratively how they'll work Shepard being pre-new universe and what the threat would be. Would it simply be the Reapers again? A theory. Okay. In the DLC, well, God, it doesn't matter. There's a DLC that's amazing, and it shows where the Reapers actually came from. And they're not the Harbingers. The Leviathan. Thank you, the Leviathan. Yeah. And the Reapers talk about how they became the Reapers because they had to choose the highest, most badass, smartest, strongest, most powerful life form ever. They replicated that from that. That's where they got that. That's where that comes from, was them. And so when the Leviathans found out about this, that's why, of course they become extinct, because that's just how like, look at like the Great White Shark, for example. And I think that could be a possibility, just, and it's like, well, is that just like rehashing the Reapers all over again? Yeah, kind of. But what are we going to do? Are we going to have the Cerberus War? Are we going to have the, oh God, what was the one species that we always got mentioned in Mass Effect? I can't remember. I don't want to waste too much time.
The Rachni?
Yeah. Well, yeah. The
But
Rachni were the thing.
yeah.
The Krogan is another thing. Like how many years does it take? Like if the Krogan, but then again, that's choice based. It's choice
Yeah,
based. You can't
absolutely, that's
say
choice based, because if you decided to, like, destroy and not let what was his name, Solus, distribute or do like the
yeah,
thing with the like the cure for like the
yeah, Morton
genophage,
Souls.
then yeah, so if you didn't allow him to do that kind of thing, then then that never happened. So yeah, that's choice based. One thing I think, and see, this is why I think I would love to see Milky Way and Andromeda come together, is because there's a lot of really cool things that happens in Andromeda narratively, right? Like, we encounter another precursor civilization, right? I don't remember if it ever gets explained who killed that precursor civilization. Like, you know what I mean? Because I mean they built like these massive vaults, right? Who took these guys out,
Right.
right? So maybe in the Andromeda, storyline, something happens. They uncover the secret of who took out these precursors, right? And they flee Andromeda to come back to the Milky Way, but that threat follows them back to the Milky Way, kind of thing. Like, I think that would be an awesome
Oh,
like set piece. But I think the first game is going to be like a very similar to what the very first Mass Effect game did, kind of set all of the set pieces up. Kind of, it was also a little bit of a mystery, but they kind of give you enough information to know, okay, the Reapers are like this ultimate like bad guy kind of threat, right? So
yeah.
I think that there's going to be a lot of moving set pieces for this Mass Effect 4 game, but by the end of the game, we're going to have a new big bad enemy that is right on the horizon, for like the Milky Way galaxy to have to struggle with again.
I love that
What do you think?
idea that they brought something from the other side. I love that idea. That is so I never actually, because I know like people really want to connect the Andromeda galaxy because and I loved it. I loved Andromeda for what it was. I didn't love it for the same reasons that I loved the Mass Effect trilogy, if that makes any sense. It was really just a tone thing for me. It was too happy. It was too happy. And I know, and I get it. And DeMarco even mentioned in the chat that there were so many funny moments, like the moment where Ryder like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna kick your ass so bad, you're gonna wish I didn't kick your ass so bad, or whatever the fuck he says. I don't know. And it was like funny, but like, and
I
even
mean,
Shepard had those
there's
moments,
some
but
dark moments too, like, discovering how one alien species is basically in hiding and being like, like genocidally killed off from like this other, species. Seeing your daddy die, like that's pretty sad, right? The
yeah,
very beginning of the game
yeah,
opens
rough on
up
that.
and it's very grim and it's very dark and it's very gritty. And even whenever you go to that desert planet, you see signs of humans that tried to make it work but ultimately failed, and you're kind of in some ways walking over their corpse. But as the game continues on,
Right.
it does get brighter, right? Because your character is going through and he's solving, he's being the pathfinder, he's leading the way into the into like the Helios cluster, areas that have never been seen before by mankind. And he's
Yeah.
fixing a lot of the problems. So yeah, it gets a little bit brighter and stuff. But I do think that there are quite a few like dark moments in that game at the same time, though.
Yeah. Um, I'm sorry. I had to talk on this again. Demarco with all the other great ideas here.
Yeah.
Shout out to Demarco. He does great Starfield content. Go check him out. Go click on his name right now and subscribe to him right now. But he says, I'm really curious if there's going to be a new combat system or just an evolution of Mass Effect Andromeda. Mass Effect Andromeda, still to this day, is my favorite third person combat ever. It is so fluent. It is so like, dude, like my build that I had, I could like stop bullets with that shield. I would then
Mhm.
like pick someone up, throw them at an enemy. I would then zoom into them, jump up, punch the ground. I was just like I was like the Vanguard, like because Vanguard has always been my class in Mass Effect. Just being like a biotic, like Vanguard is essentially just soldier mixed with biotic, like that
Yeah.
perfect
Yeah.
balance. Um,
Mhm.
I hope and
That's
pray
usually
to
what I
God.
play as well.
Yeah, it's just if it's so you feel
So
so
fun.
good, and it's so satisfying. And the thing is, like going back and playing Legendary Edition afterwards, like Shepard, Shepard is what you make them, obviously. But even in an Andromeda, no matter what you did, the combat was just so good. Like you always felt like you were just like a powerhouse, no matter what you were. And I hope that it is a continuation of Andromeda's combat. That's what I hope for.
Yeah, but it's also to add to that. I think exploration was really, really good. I think and Mass Effect Andromeda had the best exploration, landing on a planet and going around and exploring. Now, could there have been
Yeah.
more things in the world to like interact with? Absolutely, right? Um, but I mean, the way that Mass Effect 1 handled it was very janky. I mean, it was fun at the time, don't get me wrong, and even in the Legendary Collection, I landed on all the planets, uncovered all the secrets, drove that Mako everywhere, and had a ton of fun doing it. But I feel like Andromeda just did exploration of planets just a lot better. It could be improved upon though, but I think the best thing for them to do, in my opinion, would be take what worked in Andromeda and use it, right? But anything that
Yeah.
players kind of criticized, they didn't like, whatever, maybe pull back from it a little bit and go the Mass Effect 3 or Mass Effect 2 way of how that was handled.
Right, because imagine the jump from Mass Effect 1 combat to Mass Effect 2. I think it was Jedi Knight Peter who who mentioned that on our show the other day about how he felt sort of like put off by the combat. Like, what the hell is this? And then it was like, no, this is literally the way to go. This is so much better. Um,
Hmm.
and that was just his opinion. But whenever I first played Andromeda, it felt different enough that it felt like a good evolution. I didn't feel like this wasn't Mass Effect. I just didn't feel that way. So I don't know. And again, like when you talked about like the exploration, um, I love that because that was an evolution on Dragon Age Inquisition. How they
Hmm.
played that off. They sort of reined in because I don't know, for people who don't know, um, Dragon Age Inquisition, the I can't remember. I don't remember the actual um, title of this person. They were the one who made Dragon Age Inquisition the hinterlands. They are the ones who made it that way because they were an MMO developer. That is why it felt the way that it did. It is grindy as it did. That is why. That's a
Hmm.
fact. Go look it up. So it looks like in compare that to Dragon Age Inquisition to Andromeda, you can see where they took those ideas and they sort of reined it in a little more. Um, because there was a lot to explore, but it didn't feel grindy where you had the power level and all that. So I don't know, like can you imagine Mass Effect Andromeda, take away Ryder and insert Shepard doing all those things? Um, I don't know. I don't know. It's got to be dark, man.
So
It's got to be gritty. You've
it's
got to
it's gonna
be
be
in the
dark.
Milky Way galaxy. That is like,
I
yeah,
mean, I think it's going to definitely be dark. It's definitely going to be gritty. We're going to see a lot of probably even still like destroyed planets and buildings and so on and so forth. Because I mean, the Reapers, did they kill everyone? No. Did they kill a lot of people? Yeah. I mean, that ultimately means that there's less manpower, right? And then a lot of technology is kind of useless now because a lot of technology used Mass Effect fields and so on and so forth, right? A lot of technology was
right.
based on Reaper technology. But Long Free actually said something in chat that's really, really cool. He mentioned how he did not like the Mako, but whenever he saw the Mako in Mass Effect 2 like all destroyed, like it hit him hard. And I know what he's talking about. He's talking about like whenever
Yeah,
Shepard gets to go back to the
the
crash
snow.
site of
Yep,
the Normandy, and yeah, the like see like that's very, very
that's where you
dark.
get the
And
Dragon Age 2
they
armor,
need
by the way.
Yes, 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 it is. But they need to have a scene like
Yeah.
that in Mass Effect 4, though, right? Like you can travel back to Earth or something.
Yes, where you go back
Um,
and have yeah.
yeah, where like there's like you just like
God.
look around and like you see flashbacks and flashbacks like come and hit you and stuff, like, oh my god, like that would be cool. Like if you played as Shepard, of course. But anyway, okay. Final thoughts. Let's jump into final thoughts. Well, then
we'll
have
5 seconds.
Into a little bit of RPG news. No, we're gonna go over by an hour by a little bit. But final thoughts.
Okay.
So
I want Matt. Playable. I want Shepard.
Yes.
Yes.
You want him?
Yes. I don't care how they do it. I don't care if they completely. I don't care. Just do it and prove me wrong that it was a bad idea. I just want to. And again, people say that's a waste. That's a waste. It's like, I know, man, but I'm not done. I'm not done. It feels so much different than Geralt.
Why keep him alive if you're not going to use him? Why keep him alive and say, hey, that's the canon ending where he's breathing if you're not going to use him, right? Like he needs to be in the game.
It's either
I would rather play him. I want to play as him or her.
Yes, I would rather play as him, but if I can't, there's only 2 options for me. Play as him, that's what I want. 2, the mentor thing where they are your Geralt, right? And I think, and Umbra actually said the same thing in the chat. That, and speaking of Longfree actually had a message. Had a chat earlier that said would want to play as Shepard again. I don't want to play a game where he is an NPC. And then Bashida says that Dragon Age arm was wild. I don't know what you mean, man, but that's fine. DeMarco says Shepard armor doesn't fit the tone of Mass Effect Andromeda. Oh, the armor in MB. Thank you. And DeMarco says Shepard doesn't fit the tone of Mass Effect Andromeda, but the tone of Mass Effect Andromeda was a design decision from the get-go. Remember reading Game Informer articles about that, right? Yes. So it is all about tone because the vibe of Mass Effect was very similar to KOTOR. Very dark, and that's why KOTOR was being my introduction again to not only just those types of RPGs. It was my introduction to Star Wars, and that's why I fell in love with Star Wars, was because it felt dire enough that I was concerned. I felt concerned a lot about the quest that I was on, about the characters that I was interacting with, and I just like that. But what the hell did you ask me? Yeah, I want the mentor thing secondary. That's what I want.
Secondary. So primary, you want to play as him. If you don't get what you want him to be basically your Mass Effect dad.
My daddy.
Yeah. Or mom.
Yeah.
Or mom.
Yeah.
We're inclusive on this podcast. Yeah.
Or mommy.
I'm not gonna lie. I kind of want the same thing. And and to me, I'm okay if it takes place 4 years after. I mean, that gives a great opportunity to let a lot of the old characters come back. I mean, they can't make everyone a popsicle, like I said earlier. But I mean, he's there. He's alive. I would want playability. I would want to play him. If not, mentor. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. I just don't want them to kill him off. Like let that man live. Like he needs to retire sometime on on some beach somewhere. Like leave that man alone. Anyway, guys, this was an absolutely fantastic topic. Yeah. At the end of our shows, we always like to just jump into a quick news dive. And that's what we're going to do right now. But hey, seriously, thank everyone for that. Everyone that's watching the show. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. We come live on this show every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this podcast is about nothing but Western RPGs. It's pretty great. News time. Cyberpunk 2077. Right? Yeah. A game that's near and dear to my heart, a game that a lot of people hate. Yeah, a lot of people hate it. But earlier this week, they released a video and it showed Cyberpunk 2077 with ray tracing. And it also showed, basically like the frame rate difference with using DLSS 3, which is basically like a technology. I think NVIDIA only has that technology. So graphics cards with NVIDIA only have that technology. I could be mistaken. I think that AMD has their own thing. I'm not sure. But anyway, basically what we saw is the game with ray tracing. It looks absolutely incredible. And then, of course, extra frames if you have a graphics card that, can use DLSS 3. Red, jump in.
Right. Oh, you cut out there for a minute. No, there we go.
No, I'm sorry.
Dude, yeah. So it was funny because I was watching this comparison video and I was like, oh, it looks like Oh wait, it took me a couple watches to see the difference, and I was like, "Holy shit!" I'm never. I am hard to please nowadays whenever it comes to like upgrades and like, especially whenever it comes to Cyberpunk. By the way, I love Cyberpunk. I wish it was third person, but whatever. That's just me. But this looked amazing. This is like the level of what they just did with The Witcher 3, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not so dramatic, but it looked miles different to me in a good way. Like it looked so, like there was the one shot where it showed like the corner of like a building and like the light coming through the window, and then they showed the new version of it, and you could see like the ambient what is the word, like it's not fog, but there's a word for it. It's not ambient occlusion, you know what I mean? Like you could see like the light felt like thick, like it was like tangible, like whenever
like
there's
it was
like too much
beaming
dust
through
in a
the
room.
window. Yes,
Beaming through. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that. And then they show like an outside look of like a factory, and like it looked really like plasticky in comparison. And then they showed the new version,
fake,
everything.
Right?
The metal looked
right,
exactly.
real.
In comparison, I'm like, damn,
realer.
this game looks like shit in comparison. Right? Yeah, dude. I was so I was so impressed with this, and I'm glad that I have my second and a half or third playthrough, whatever you want to say, of Cyberpunk. I actually put it down because I got to the final mission before you. What is it? You know, it's like a bunch of numbers or whatever. I can't remember, but I put it down there because I wanted to go back and just what I was actually doing with Cyberpunk is I made an entire playlist of all this free royalty music, and made like there's like 40 some songs that I have on there that are like kind of like lower chiller Cyberpunk 80s synthwave, but very what's the word, not sad, but just very help me chat, what's the word I'm looking for, anyway, just somber, that's what I'm looking for, somber synthwave type 80s cyberpunk music, not the grungy type cyberpunk music that we got in the game. But what I did was I would put my headphones on, got my Acers, I would put them on, turn on my phone, play that playlist, turn down the volume just enough, and turn off the game music, and let that just be the ambient music. I would play it very low, and this sounds so stupid, but it changed the whole vibe of that whole game for me. The music just completely changed it. I cannot wait to get back into this whenever the update. Did we have a release date for this update?
I didn't see anything. Now I do know that, and this is just a piece of separate news. I think it's going to be at one of the showcases that's already been announced, right? So, I think it's the Ubisoft, or it's the I don't think it's the Xbox one, and I'm pretty sure it's not the Xbox one. I'm thinking it's the Ubisoft one for some reason. Anyway, at one of these shows that we see during like this during like the summer like showcase like time area, it has been confirmed that Cyberpunk will be or CD Projekt Red will be showing off some more information about the new upcoming DLC, Liberty something. What's the name of it? Liberty something. Anyway, I'm super pumped for that DLC. As soon as it comes out, I'm going to be coming back to Cyberpunk. Right now, I've already beaten the game 3 times, have all the achievements unlocked, and I want to play the game even more, but like I don't have any content. I've literally done every single quest multiple times in the game. There's only so many times I can do the same thing before I go a little crazy. So I'm super pumped for new DLC. What I will say is, if you have not played Cyberpunk 2077, or maybe you tried it whenever it first came out, jump back into it, right? Like, I'm sure you can still pick it up for, on the cheap, just because of how bad of a launch that it had. I'm sure you can still pick it up pretty cheap. Give it another try. If nothing else, give it another try whenever this DLC comes out, because that's really going to be like the only big major expansion, and I think the last piece of DLC that we're going to get from this game, because that's all we're going to get.
Phantom Liberty. Yeah. That's it.
Phantom Liberty. Yep.
God. No, but Idris Elba though. That's the thing. Like, I would have taken Idris Elba over my best friend throughout the entire game than having Keanu Reeves as my brain psycho. Just saying. That's
I
the
like
one thing I actually did not like
Keanu
about
Reeves
Cyberpunk.
in my
I did
head.
not like.
You didn't like him?
I
Like
like him. I
Keanu?
liked him as a character. No. No. Oh man. No, I
Yeah.
love him, and I
Okay.
love his character. I didn't like him being and my Cortana. I did not like that. I didn't feel like an individual character. Again, I felt like it took away a lot of the agency of just being whoever the hell I wanted to be. It was really weird. And by the way, it was a actual last minute choice for them to add Keanu Reeves and Johnny Silverhand in your head. By the way, that was not part of the
Really?
script at all. They felt that it lacked like impact as far as like historic God, I don't want to misquote it, but
I felt very impacted
it was a last minute
while
choice.
playing Cyberpunk. Okay, got you.
Yeah.
Well,
And
either
they
way it goes,
tied in
I
a
think
ton
it
of
was
the
a great
lore,
choice. It was a great, flipping choice, 100%,
It was
right?
fun, yeah.
So in other news, Starfield. Yo, this is the first time we've talked about Starfield on this podcast, I think, and this is only the second episode though, so didn't take us too long. Anyway, there was an article that was written by Games Radar, and it reported that a Starfield developer said that there is, quote, no sci-fi movie or show that hasn't inspired Starfield in some way. And specifically, two pieces of content that he actually mentions is Event Horizon, which is a movie. It's actually a really good movie. And Cowboy Bebop, which is of course, TV show, anime. I think they also did make some movies, Cowboy Bebop movies. And then he also mentioned separately another piece of media that he thinks has some relations, like kind of similarities with some things that happened in the game as well. This one's not sci-fi. He mentions the movie Donnie Brasco, which is the mafia movie where the FBI informant agent like infiltrates the Italian mafia, and he basically relates that to how your character in Starfield can infiltrate the Crimson Fleet. You can join, and then you could go back to your superiors in another faction and be like, yeah, they're doing X, Y, and Z, we got to stop them. So
I love that.
Look, I love sci-fi. I'm a huge nerd.
I thought you were gonna say Donnie Darko, by the way.
The Expanse is one of my favorite TV shows, and I mean, that they're definitely that gave them some inspiration. But how do you feel about that news?
100%. When I read this too, and I thought that was like the greatest. I was so happy that they didn't like limit themselves, because space sci-fi, space opera, when we think space opera, we think Star Wars, right? Because that's sort of like what defined that genre. And in this way, I'm glad that Event Horizon was one of the things that they like. Space can be scary. By the way, Event Horizon is the prequel to Warhammer 40K. By the way, it is the prequel. That movie is the prequel. They open the gates to hell in a black hole. Go look it up. It's fucking awesome. If you watch that movie as a 40K prequel, you'll be like, oh my god, this is amazing. But anyway, yeah, shout out to Jedi Knight Peter, who just joined the chat. I'm thinking of. So what else did they mention? They mentioned did they actually say The Expanse? Because The Expanse is a more grounded.
They didn't. They did not. Which I mean, there's been talks with Todd Howard. Is this hard sci-fi? Is it not? And he kind of says that it leans more towards hard sci-fi than not hard sci-fi. But obviously, it's a game, right? There's restrictions and so on and so forth. But see, that's one really good thing about The Expanse is, it very much leans towards like hard sci-fi, like the rules of like nature and the galaxy as a whole have a major impact on what that story is capable of doing, and so on and so forth. Of course, there's some paranormal kind of supernatural things that go on in like the plot line of The Expanse. But I mean, man, there's just so many, like, I mean, what gets me is not the fact that he said several sci-fi movies and shows. He's like, there is no sci-fi movie or show that hasn't inspired Starfield in some way or another. Like, that's the part that gets me.
Right.
It's just the massive amount of content that has inspired this.
Yeah, Bushido says, The Expanse. Now I know Zemi is my son. So congratulations, Zemi. You finally found your long lost father. He's come back from the milk
Thanks.
store. And here he is. Perfect. Perfect. And he said, I freaking love The Expanse. The tears are filling up. They're talking about something else. But anyway, yeah. When they say there has been nothing that hasn't influenced it, it just, again, it makes me happy to know that they're trying to create 25 years in the making. They are trying to pull everything out of this and make the greatest, their version of the greatest sci-fi space RPG ever. Because one of the things that was lacking for me in No Man's Sky, of course, the only reason I'm bringing that up is because we don't have anything else
Just
to
one
agree on.
thing. just
our
one
service
thing.
isn't a real game. But yeah.
I got you. Yeah. Well,
Go ahead.
anyway, this was a fun show, wasn't it?
Oh, okay.
Red,
We're ending it. There's like a lag, and people are in chat are like, "What the fuck's going on?" It's fine. Go ahead. Yep. Wonderful.
Gotcha.
Please take us out.
Where can we find you?
You can find me at Red Wolf Renegade on YouTube. That's just Red Wolf Renegade on YouTube and on Twitter. The only Red Wolf Renegade on YouTube and Twitter. And that's where you can find me. Those links are in the description down below. I've had such a great time here. I could have continued. Maybe we will have another Mass Effect centric podcast where we just explode all over the place. And yes, this has been so much fun. I love this. I love you.
I love you too, man. I love you too. And you guys can follow me on Twitter at Zimmy Games. And actually, I'm doing something really cool this weekend. Me and a good friend of mine whose name is ZFG, who streams a lot on Twitch, we're actually going to be doing a 24-hour stream on Saturday, starting at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think 5:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to be playing ESO. We'll probably get bored of that and go play some other things, but we'll be streaming for 24 hours straight. And you can find a link to my Twitch channel. Yeah, it's going to be a lot. You can find my a link to my Twitch channel down in the description below, as well as Red's information. He has a podcast every Tuesday at 6 p.m., right? So definitely go check that out as well. And a link to his channel is down in the description as well. Anyway, guys, we will be back here next Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for episode 3 of the RPGwhat podcast. Thank you all for coming, and I hope you guys all have a great day. Peace out, guys.
Goodbye.